While joking around, he took one joke to heart about him being a wimp. So he stood up and did this. "Hey Reddit, this is my first time posting on here. I honestly need a lot of advice right now. I'm in a genuinely tough spot and I am so confused. I called my husband a wimp and ever since then he has completely changed. He is no longer the loving, kind man that I married and I am so worried about him. I need some advice because I need to know what to do on how to tackle this situation. My name is Chloe and I am 27 years old. My husband's name is Theo and he is 29. Theo and I have been married for about 2 years and we met on a dating app. We don't have any kids because we wanted to hold on to that until we had gotten to our 30s. Theo and I have always had a great relationship, very playful, very understanding. The kind of relationship where we could tease each other and take it as a joke. It was all in good fun until that one night. Theo and I have always had a great relationship. Like I've said before, he was amazing because he always went out of his way. Theo was the kind of partner who would do anything for his partner. He always went all in, giving his best in every aspect of our relationship. One of the things that made him stand out was his romantic gestures. He would plan surprises, outings, and all sorts of special activities that made our time together truly magical. I remember one Valentine's Day when he surprised me with a weekend getaway to a cozy cabin in the woods. He had everything planned out, from the moment we arrived to the activities we would do together. It was such a thoughtful and romantic gesture that made me fall in love with him even more. Theo didn't just stop at big gestures, he was also attentive to the little things. He would leave me love notes around the house, cook my favorite meals on random weekdays, and always made sure to listen to me when I needed to talk. His thoughtfulness and effort in our relationship were what made our bond so strong. I felt cherished and loved, and I knew that he would always go above and beyond to make me happy. That's why it's so confusing for me to see him react this way to a harmless joke. It feels like he's a different person, and I'm struggling to understand why. Theo was a great guy, no doubt about that. He always went the extra mile to make me feel special, which was awesome. But sometimes he could be a bit too much. He was super nice, like all the time, which could get overwhelming. He'd stick to me like glue, and while it was sweet, it could also feel like he was suffocating me. I don't like using fancy terms like simp or wimp, but let's just say Theo could be a bit of a pushover and overly careful. He'd do anything to make me happy, even if it meant sacrificing his own needs. That kind of behavior was cute initially, but it got old fast. Outside of work, Theo lacked confidence. He'd hesitate a lot and always needed reassurance before making decisions. Even in private moments, he'd be super cautious, making sure everything was perfect, which could be annoying. I wanted him to be a bit more assertive and spontaneous, especially in our personal life. I didn't want him to change completely, just find a balance. Theo being so careful and always trying to please me ended up making me disrespect him without even realizing it. I sort of took advantage of how nice he was. I started ignoring what he wanted and assumed he'd always put me first. Because he rarely stood up for himself strongly, I started brushing off his opinions, thinking they didn't matter much. I felt like I had more control, which wasn't fair to him. I saw that I was falling into a habit of not valuing his feelings or what he wanted, just assuming he'd go along with whatever I said. It wasn't a good way to treat him or our relationship. I stopped pulling my weight around the house, leaving all the chores for Theo, even after he worked long hours. Out of the blue, I quit my job and expected Theo to foot the bill without discussing it with him first. When he raised concerns and suggested I find work or contribute in some way, I brushed him off and refused to listen. I became stubborn and ignored the strain I was causing, which was pretty unfair to Theo. Our relationship hit a rough patch and we started pulling away from each other. I started seeing Theo as too soft and accommodating, like he couldn't stand up for himself. It bugged me so much that it fueled this growing dislike for him. I couldn't shake off the feeling of frustration and resentment. It just made me dislike him more and more, and it felt like we were drifting further apart every day. As days went by, I found myself growing more and more fed up with Theo. Every little thing he did, whether it was trying to be nice or simply going about his day, grated on my nerves. His attempts to make things right felt fake, like he was just going through the motions without really understanding what was wrong. I started avoiding him whenever I could. Being around him felt like being trapped in a cage with someone I couldn't stand. It was easier to stay away, to find distractions elsewhere rather than confront the mounting issues between us. Our arguments became more frequent, and each one left me feeling angrier and more resentful. I blamed him for everything, even though I knew I had my own faults in how I handled things. But facing my own shortcomings was too difficult, so I kept piling the blame on him. Our home felt like a battleground with tension hanging in the air all the time. I resented him for not being stronger, for not standing up to me or pushing back against my behavior. It felt like I was the only one trying to keep things together, and it was exhausting. Theo's efforts to mend our relationship felt superficial, like putting a band-aid on a gaping wound. I wanted real change, but I didn't know if I could ever get that from him. Theo was just plain confused and was trying his hardest to fix things between us, but it felt like hitting a brick wall. I couldn't shake off this growing hatred towards him, all because I saw him as spineless. Every time he came to me, pouring his heart out and promising to do better, I couldn't help but roll my eyes. It seemed like empty words, like he was saying what he thought I wanted to hear without really understanding what was wrong. Instead of appreciating his attempts to make things right, I found myself getting angrier. I wanted a partner who could stand up for himself, challenge me, and be strong. But Theo always seemed to fold under pressure. It made me lose respect for him, and I kept seeing him as this weakling. No matter how hard Theo tried to mend things, I kept pushing him away. I was stuck in this loop of blaming him for everything and refusing to see my own faults in our messed up relationship. Even though Theo was genuinely confused and trying his best, I couldn't let go of my anger. It felt like I was stuck in this never-ending cycle of resentment and disappointment, and it was tearing us apart. A week back, Theo really went all out. He set up this amazing dinner date at home, cooked up a storm, and did everything to make it special. Even though I still despised him a bit, I couldn't deny the effort he put in. During dinner, something changed. Maybe it was the effort Theo showed, or maybe it was just the vibe, but we started chatting and laughing like old times. Jokes were flying around, and we talked about all the things we wanted to do but never got around to. That's when I brought up skydiving, which is something I tried before and loved. It was my way of opening up, sharing a bit of myself with Theo. But when Theo said he'd be too nervous to try skydiving, the teasing side of me kicked in, and I jokingly and also a little loathingly called him a wimp. After I teased Theo about him being a wimp, I saw his smile disappear, and he let out this forced chuckle. The vibe at dinner went from fun to awkward real quick. We finished eating, but it was like there was this invisible wall between us. I tried to chat with him like usual, but he seemed distant and not really into it. After that dinner incident, Theo's attitude did a complete 180-degree turn. It was like he just shut down, became distant, and basically checked out emotionally. All the effort he had been putting into fixing our relationship vanished overnight. He became distant, almost as if he had built a wall around himself. Suddenly, he stopped making any effort. The romantic gestures, the surprises, everything just stopped. Around the house, he became stubborn. If I didn't do something, he wouldn't either. It was a standoff without any communication. It was like he was mirroring my actions, but not in a helpful way. It felt like a standoff where neither of us wanted to budge. I tried to talk to him about it, but he would either brush it off or give short, dismissive answers. It was frustrating because I didn't understand why one little joke could cause such a drastic change in him. It felt like I was walking on eggshells around him, afraid that any wrong move would push him further away. As time passed, Theo's behavior continued to deteriorate, and it got worse. Gone was the guy who used to go out of his way to make me happy. Instead, he became distant and indifferent. It was almost like a stranger living in the same house. The turning point was when he started suggesting that I get a job. He pointed out that it didn't make sense for me to be at home all day, especially since we didn't have any kids. According to him, it wasn't fair for him to be paying all the bills while I did nothing. At first, I was taken aback by his words. I felt like he was attacking me and my choices, like he didn't understand why I had quit my job in the first place. It felt like a slap in the face, especially coming from someone who used to be so supportive and understanding. I tried to explain my reasons, but he wouldn't listen. It was like talking to a brick wall. He had become so fixated on this idea that I needed to contribute financially that he couldn't see past it. We started arguing a lot, and there was a lot of tension in the house. I felt misunderstood and unappreciated. It was like everything I had done for our relationship didn't matter anymore. I'm trying to figure out why he's acting this way and how we can fix things together. I don't understand why he's taking it so seriously. It was just a joke, and I never meant to hurt his feelings. Now he's distant, and there's this tension between us that I've never felt before. I miss the playful banter and the laughter we used to share. I miss the Theo who would light up my days with his surprises and affection. I want to find a way to reconnect with that side of him and bring back the joy and love we used to share. I need advice on how to approach Theo and talk to him about this. I want to understand why my harmless joke has had such a significant impact on him, and how we can go back to being the happy couple we used to be. If anyone has any advice or similar experiences, I would greatly appreciate hearing them. Thank you for reading. Update. Hey Reddit, I didn't expect such a backlash from my post. I knew it was a touchy subject, but the level of hate surprised me. Many comments label me as out of touch and insensitive, accusing me of being lazy and deserving blame. Let me clarify a few things. Firstly, despite my frustrations expressed in the post, I still love my husband. I use strong words out of irritation, not genuine dislike. Secondly, I am not lazy or insensitive. I understand Theo's perspective and our situation well. Some ask why I haven't gotten a job. The truth is, I feel restricted in a traditional job, and financially, Theo's income covers our needs comfortably. I appreciate the advice offered, but I want to make it clear that divorce is not on the table for us. Theo and I have a strong bond, and we have been together for years, and we are compatible despite our recent challenges. I hope this clarifies things a bit. Thanks to those who offered constructive advice. Update. Hey Reddit, I'm facing a tough situation and could use some advice. Tonight, Theo confronted me after finding out from a friend that I cheated on him years ago, back when we were still dating. I deeply regret my actions from back then, and the friend who revealed this information to Theo did so out of guilt after all this time. Theo's reaction was intense. He's angry, understandably so. He said things that hurt, calling me not just a cheater, but also a liar. He expressed that if he had known about this earlier, he wouldn't have proceeded with our relationship and marriage. He told me he can't forgive me and wants me out by tomorrow morning. It's all happening so fast, and I feel so scared and angry. I can't be homeless. I don't want to leave my husband. What do I do? I'm reaching out here for any advice or ideas on how to approach this conversation with Theo. Any help would be greatly appreciated. Update. Hey Reddit, the hate train is still chugging along, but I'm not letting it get under my skin. It's interesting to see how people express themselves, even if it's through hate. I've stumbled upon my posts on platforms like TikTok and Reddit, and the comments are not pretty, to say the least. But hey, everyone's entitled to their opinion, right? I've got thick skin, so this kind of negativity doesn't bother me much. I've seen my fair share of it. Now on to the real update, because it seems like many of you are curious about how my life is unraveling. My husband kicked me out. The morning after our confrontation, he seemed calmer, but that didn't lead to forgiveness. Instead, he expressed his heartbreak and made it clear that he couldn't forgive me. He essentially asked me to let him go. We had a conversation and I begged him for another chance, but in the end, he insisted on me leaving. So here I am crashing at a friend's place, typing this update. My life has taken a nosedive incredibly fast. I'm without a stable income, and to add salt to the wound, Theo has blocked me and drained our joint account. I'm in a tough spot, jobless and broke. Any advice or support would mean a lot right now. Update. Hey Reddit, I see the hate is still strong, but hey, a few positive comments stand out amidst the negativity. I wish I could share some positive news with you all, but unfortunately that's not the case. My husband still hasn't unblocked me, so any attempts to reach out to him remain futile. As for my living situation, I'm still crashing at my friend's place, but she's made it clear that I'll need to find a new arrangement soon as she can't host me indefinitely. The job front isn't looking great either. I'm jobless at the moment, and the looming reality of having to search for one soon is daunting. So yeah, life's pretty tough right now. I noticed many of you asking for updates, so here's one, although there's nothing major to report at the moment. Update. Hey Reddit, quick update from me. First things first, I want to address a common question I've been getting. Yes, I immediately cut off the friend who spilled the beans to Theo about my past cheating, and I also distanced myself from anyone who supported her. I didn't have any friends in the first place, so my circle has shrunk significantly. That's good anyways, because they claimed to be my friends, but wouldn't help when I needed it. On a brighter note, I have a job interview lined up for tomorrow. It's a step forward, and I'm hoping for the best. Your support means a lot, so thanks for reading and wishing me luck. Update. Hey Reddit, it's me again, posting here despite the ongoing negativity because, well, why not? Unfortunately, I don't have much of a positive update to share. It feels like things are just not falling into place for me. First off, I didn't get the job I interviewed for, which was incredibly frustrating. I put in the effort, went through the process, but sometimes things just don't work out as planned. Secondly, my friend kicked me out of her place. She felt I had overstayed my welcome, and despite my desire to protest, I had no choice but to leave. It was a tough blow, especially since I had nowhere else to turn to. I ended up back at my parents' house, a situation I had hoped to avoid. There's some bad blood between us from my childhood, and it's clear they still harbor resentment. It's only been 2 days, and I already feel like I'm losing my mind. They constantly bring up past issues, and it's hard to be here. On a slightly brighter note, Theo unblocked me and reached out. It's a small positive amidst everything else going wrong. Maybe he might forgive me so I can go back home. Update. Hey Reddit, thanks for the support I've been receiving here, no matter how little. It's also interesting to note that the hate train is still chugging along. A few updates on my end since my last post. Firstly, like I said, Theo unblocked me, but it wasn't for good news. He informed me that he wants a divorce. That hit me hard, and it's not something I wanted to hear. I thought he would forgive me, but I guess not. Secondly, I'm still struggling to find a job, and I'm stuck at my parents' place. The pressure is mounting, especially with my parents constantly on my case. They believe Theo shouldn't divorce me and want to intervene, but I feel like his decision is final and that he has made up his mind. Parents aren't listening to my perspective, and they're also blaming me for the divorce. It's hurtful and very exhausting dealing with their constant criticism. Even my siblings seem to be siding with them, which just adds to my emotional burden. To make matters worse, my in-laws reached out, but instead of supporting or asking for my side of the story, it was to pour blame and insults on me. It's disheartening to feel like I have no one in my corner, especially when even my friends haven't reached out during this difficult time. Thanks for reading and for any support or advice you can offer. Update. Hey Reddit, here's a quick update since many of you were asking. My parents tried talking to Theo, but he wasn't having it. They went to his place, he let them in begrudgingly, and the chat didn't go anywhere. Theo made it clear he was done with me, end of story. My parents left feeling defeated, and I felt pretty embarrassed about the whole thing. They're still pointing fingers at me, which adds insult to injury since I warned them. It's been rough, to be honest. Thanks for reading and caring, though. Update. Hey Reddit, just a quick update because things have been pretty rough lately. It feels like everything's happening at once, and I'm just exhausted. My parents are still on my case, pushing me to find a job and contribute financially or leave. Today I got served with divorce papers, and it hit me hard. I couldn't hold back the tears. I miss my husband terribly, and in a moment of desperation I called him, pouring my heart out, but he hung up on me. It's incredible how one innocent word said while joking has snowballed into all this chaos. Update. Hey Reddit, it's been a minute since my last update. I wanted to wait until everything settled down before giving a final update. I might have used Reddit a bit too much as a sounding board, haha. Anyway, here's what's been happening since then. First off, the divorce is officially finalized. Surprisingly, I was awarded alimony, although it's not much. It did help me secure a place with a roommate, which has been a relief from the toxicity at my parents' place. The judge considered my past mistake of cheating, but since it happened before the marriage and years ago, it wasn't a significant factor in the decision. As expected, my parents weren't thrilled when they found out I was moving out instead of staying and paying them rent. It was a bit of a tricky situation because staying and paying rent to them didn't really make sense, especially since they also expected me to take care of their needs. I tried to reason with them and asked if they could at least reduce the rent, considering my circumstance and condition. However, they flat out refused, and that's when I realized it was time for me to leave. Their anger and refusal to compromise only added to the tension, but I knew I had to prioritize my own well-being. Leaving did strain our relationship even further. They wouldn't talk to me for a while, but I had to prioritize my own needs and financial stability. Sometimes tough decisions are necessary for personal growth and independence. Secondly, I've landed a job. It's not the dream job by any means. It's low-paying and demanding, but it's a start. I'm hoping to find something better eventually, but for now, it's helping me get back on my feet. I understand. Let's dive into the story. Oh yeah, remember how I mentioned my friends? Well, they've been as silent as a mouse in a library. Not a single message, not even a, "How are you holding up?" I mean, seriously? It's like they vanished into thin air when things got tough, so you know what I did? I hit that block button like it was my job. I realized they were just there for the good times, not the bad. Fake friends, right? The kind that ghost you when life throws a curveball. So, no more pretending they're there for me. If they can't be bothered to check in, they don't deserve a spot in my contacts list. It's time to clean house and surround myself with people who actually care, not just when it's convenient for them. I also did try to keep in touch with Theo, but he refused any contact. I respect his decision, even though it's tough. I know a lot of people are going to say I deserve it, and rightfully I think I do too. I was stupid and I underrated Theo. I took him for granted. Right now I'm focusing on moving forward and rebuilding my life. Thanks for reading and for all the support.